Welcome to Asymmetric Investing. Excited today to talk to Abhishek Fatehpuria, the head of product at Robinhood. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Nice to meet you.
Yes, you as well. And it's good to get some more background about Robinhood, a stock that I've been covering on Asymmetric Investing for quite a while. You had an interesting presentation announcement event this week, a lot of artificial intelligence things to talk about. But I wanted to actually go back. You've been with Robinhood since 2016, is that right?
Yeah.
Quite a history. I wanted to get sort of a background on how you think about product and where the company has come from 2016 to today. Obviously been through a ton of explosive growth, but also ups and downs over that period of time.
Yeah.
Very different company today. But what's sort of the guiding light and vision when you think about products coming from Robinhood, given you're almost a decade there?
Yeah. It's getting close to a decade. So when I joined Robinhood, it was an equities only product. We had just started to make some revenue and figure out how to make some revenue. But generally, even today, the core principles are pretty much the same. We want to build the best experience for customers, and then we want to be the best cost for customers, the best economics possible. And our general belief has been if we can replicate that across all of our business lines, all of our product offerings, we're going to be really successful. And generally, the more and more we've expanded the product, what we've gotten from customers is they want to do more on Robinhood. They want to manage more of their finances on Robinhood because they love those things. They know what they've come to expect from us is great experience, top-notch experience with best economics. And that's the expectation. Through all the ups and downs, we've tried to stay true to that. I think the key is when it's doing well, you obviously keep doing it, but when it's not doing well, you have to stay true to it.
How do you judge that when you look at some of the newer products? Because I think, moving into something like prediction markets, I think you've talked about that being the highest growth product. That's very different than some of the stuff that I was really excited about when I first got onto Robinhood, which was the way that you were thinking about the credit card differently. I remember watching an interview with Vlad on CNBC, and they were like, how can you do 3% cash back? And so then it goes to I think about it like Costco economics, right? You're making money on the subscription, not necessarily on the product, and then you get to things like Roth IRAs where you're giving cash back. So how does those seem very different than moving into things like I want to bet on the Timberwolves game tonight. How does that sort of tension play in when they just seem like very different markets, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, the way we think about it is we want to be the all-in-one financial super app. I think Vlad's talked about that quite a lot as well. Yep. But all your financial transactions that you want to perform as an individual, we want Robinhood to be the best place for you to do it. So if you're an active trader and you want to have access to all the asset classes, whether that's equities, ETFs, futures, options, cryptocurrencies, and more recently prediction markets, we want to be the best experience and the best cost provider for that. If you're a more passive investor, we want to have the best digital advisory experience, the best retirement product, the best joint account experience for you. And if you want to kind of be very comprehensive with Robinhood, you can use our credit card, which is also best in class, and banking. Yep. So I think the key thing for us is we want to offer all the financial products that customers want to use on a daily basis and less frequent basis as well. Spending and investing happen to be more frequent use cases. And kind of be the best experience for all of those and let customers ultimately give them maximal control over their financial lives.
And how does banking play into that? So that's starting to roll out, I believe. I haven't quite hit that yet, so hopefully I get to try that out soon. But I've got the credit card. I'm a gold member, so I've got accounts. I'd love to see the 529s and custodial accounts. So I'll be happy when those come to the Robinhood platform. But how does banking play into that? Because that seems to be moving much more from, hey, I can use a credit card, but also that's really your core finances there is your money coming in from your paycheck and things like that.
Like you said, right? Banking, it's kind of where most people's finances start. They get a paycheck, they direct deposit it somewhere, and then they allocate that paycheck to all the different expenses they have. So the way we thought about the banking product is high net worth people get a really, really great best-in-class private banking experience. How do we make that available to as many people as possible? And we've, the team has spent time studying what are all the great things that private banks offer and how can we make them available at scale. Cash delivery is like one of the examples. And what has sort of enabled us to do that is some of those benefits are behind some form of direct deposit or some form of frequent deposit into the account, because that's what enables us to give these amazing experiences to customers. So, I mean, I think banking in a lot of ways kind of completes a part of the ecosystem, which is like now you can deposit your paycheck into Robinhood. You can instantly invest some of it. You can, if you want to do some active trading, you can instantly move some of your active trading dollars into that account. We now support multiple brokerage accounts. So I can have an active trading account, I can have a long-term investing account, and then I can pay my bills out of the banking product as well. So you can kind of do everything from Robinhood with our banking product.
And is that going to be in the Robinhood app, not in a separate bank? Because the credit card's in a separate app.
Yeah. The banking product currently lives inside of what was the credit card app and now is the banking app. But I mean, if you've played with the experience, it's very seamless. All right, it's shared login, so you don't need to like create two different logins. We make KYC super smooth, so you don't need to do the whole account entry multiple times. We've also learned that customers like to mentally account their different types of money, and they sometimes view banking and investing as separate use cases. So the multi-app strategy has been working for us so far. That might change in the future. We're always thinking and rethinking our app all the time. But right now, we feel like that's the right path.
That is one of the things I find interesting with Robinhood is that you're digitally native. You know, and if you look at any of your competitors, much harder to make trades, much harder to do transactions. That's just, I think that's just a fact. I'm not saying anything controversial there. I wanted to get to some of the things that you've announced this year related to Cortex and the sort of the AI tools that are being pulled into the Robinhood app related to investing. And this is, you know, kind of my world of doing research on stocks. It's going to be a little bit different because it's going to be more, I'm more thinking about what's going to happen in 10 years. This is going to be much more, hey, what's going on with the stock today? At least that's what I have seen with Digest. Talk a little bit about what is going on with Digest, what's available today, and how you think about that product, because that does seem like it is kind of, like you're saying before, democratizing some of that information that didn't used to be available.
Yeah, I think with Cortex, we've taken a fairly unique path. When we started thinking about it, it was like, how can we make AI really a native to the Robinhood app? And I think it's like fairly easy to do AI for the sake of doing AI. And that's something we expressly didn't want to do. We wanted to make sure it fit into the app naturally and organically. It was actually valuable to customers. It wasn't like sitting off to the side. And that meant we had to take a slower, like more intentional approach to it. But our thing is when it does roll out, these products need to be fantastic on day one because they're going out to 20 million plus, 25 million plus customers. So they got to be good. They can't just be like a really nice looking UI and then the content's bad. So we've spent a lot of time being very intentional about how we use it. So our journey has been interesting. So we started with Digest in March when we announced Robinhood Cortex. And that was like aimed at solving a very specific problem, but a very universal problem, which is I get a push notification or somehow find out that a stock has moved. I want to understand why. And it pulls together a bunch of data across real-time market data, news, analyst reports, Robinhood trading trends, and basically a lot of the stuff that you can find on the stock detail page. But then it consolidates it into an initial read of what's going on. Super helpful, but actually very difficult to do right because you need access to a lot of data. You need to vet the data. You need real-time data, which a lot of the foundation models don't always have. Or they use a lot of data that may not be closely vetted.
So I wanted to ask about that.
Yeah.
But I want to ask about that and hold on that for a second, because that does seem to be, and this isn't a Robinhood specific problem, but almost like an internet problem where if there's real-time data that was previously coming from a New York Times or there's financial outlets, the Motley Fool, we would do 10 percenters. That would be the kind of information you're talking about. But there was economics behind that. I believe that you have licensing deals with those companies, but how do you make sure that that data feed is going to be coming for a long time, and how do you make sure that it's not an AI flywheel? I went into one of the sources. It's nice that you have the sources in the digest, but it said this article was generated by I won't throw out the company's name, automated content engine. So it's like AI going in. And what I didn't see, and I assume you have too, is things like press releases, SEC filings, the first party data that seems to it would be even blogs would be really valuable data. So I just want to get an idea how you're thinking about that.
Well, that's a good flag. We will look into it. But
I'll tell you offline who it was.
No, tell me offline. Yeah, it's cool. And we're always looking for feedback. But generally, here's been our approach. We're trying to get analyst reports, and we use analyst ratings, analyst price targets, and the analyst reports. And with various providers, we have licensing deals or data deals to do that. We're working with news sources, a collection of news sources to power it. We are looking at our own trading trends of what's happening in the Robinhood ecosystem. We're looking at the real-time market data that's coming directly from the exchanges and stuff. And we pull in SEC filings and the stuff that's filed with the SEC. That stuff tends to be less relevant on a day-to-day basis because a company is not filing filings every single day necessarily. If they are, that's quite an eventful company. But and we're constantly up-leveling the data sources and reevaluating the data sources that Cortex has available to it. But it can't just go and randomly search the internet because you don't know what it's going to find. So we've been selective as to what data we let in, and we're constantly reevaluating what is available to it and hoping to add more over time. So that's kind of generally been our approach. Like the portfolio digest we showed at the Tuesday event this week, we added a number of more data sources to it to help boost it, which will benefit the entire ecosystem. Like we pulled in an economic calendar to understand when our event's happening. So basically each of these products we're bringing in more data to fuel the engine every time we roll out a new feature. And ideally everything's improving together.
So the idea for Cortex Digest, the original, the product that's out today, is more stock specific. Robinhood stock moved. Here's what happened. There was some announcement, whatever the data is telling you. And then Portfolio Digest seems to be, if I'm understanding it correctly, there's those individual pieces, and then there's also, hey, here's this macro thing that happened that pushed tech stocks higher or what have you, or the whole market higher. Is that the right?
So today we have Stock Digest, which we've expanded to a lot more stocks since the initial release in March. We started with a small set so that we could curate the quality. Then we expanded it to crypto. So we have it for crypto as well. And we're in the process of rolling it out for ETFs. On Tuesday, we showed Portfolio Digest, which mixed kind of the macro backdrop. It also feeds in your portfolio to understand what are the individual parts of your portfolio that are actually moving today. So it'll figure out hey, you might own this stock, and this stock is the biggest reason behind your portfolio shifting. And then it'll go and pull in the data for why that stock is moving, or it'll look at sectoral trends and stuff. So it'll be at a portfolio level. We've already started rolling that out actually for Robinhood Strategies. Robinhood Strategies, we've begun rolling out the digest for those portfolios. They generate
and that
daily.
Has a human element too, right?
There is a human element to those. So on a daily basis, the AI will generate a digest, and once in a while, our investment team will go in and write a much more specific pointed thing about the portfolio, especially if they're making a change to the portfolio. That's when they'll go in and write one themselves. But on a daily basis, to explain the movement, we're leveraging AI. And then we also have some human elements around why is this particular stock in the portfolio? Because that's a decision our team is making. We're working on expanding that to the portfolios you control yourself, which is a little bit more complex because it involves options, it involves prediction markets, it involves futures. So it's just going to take a little bit more time. So that's kind of been the digest layer of Cortex, which has actually seen a lot of usage, and customers use it all the time because it fits right into their workflows. The other thing we've been doing in the background that has been hugely valuable and enabled us to build what you saw on Tuesday, which was the assistant, is solving customer support with AI. And in order to really solve customer support with AI, you have to do a few things. First, the AI, and in this case, Robinhood Cortex, has to like deeply understand the ins and outs of the Robinhood product. It has to understand what are all the issues customers might have. It has to understand the edge cases in our product because our customers will ask it a question and it needs to know about our ecosystem, which is kind of information only we have. On top of that, it needs information about your account. Otherwise, we can't answer questions to help do customer support for you. So it needs to ingest all the account signals, and if you have a margin call or if you have a failed transfer or failed order, it needs to understand that stuff to create an answer for you. So in the background, we've been building customer support with AI. That team's done an incredible job. And that has basically built the backbone to Robinhood Cortex, understanding the Robinhood product and ecosystem, as well as being able to understand a customer's account and sometimes even propose actions on behalf of the customer. So if you're like, hey, I have a stuck order, I want to cancel my transfer, it can surface up a message that's like, hey, if you want to cancel your transfer, I see you have a transfer here. Here's a button to cancel it. Now, when we pair that, some of the technology we showed at the Active Trader event in September and the digest stuff, we can actually turn that into a really compelling assistant that actually feels like it belongs in Robinhood and doesn't just feel like a chatbot off to the side.
And would this be the credit card, banking, and the brokerage piece that it would go across all of those things if I have?
I think right now it's like focused on the brokerage app for the most part, but over time, hopefully, we can expand it.
But it could maybe surface those things that are behind the. I forget what I was looking for, but I had to click a whole bunch of, and I didn't quite know where exactly to find
our
it.
Help center. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then where does the you talked about AI assistance in researching markets, analyzing technicals, and then ultimately placing trades. So you could go in and say, hey, I want to buy $100 of Robinhood stock, and then it wouldn't actually make the trade, right? You would then still have to swipe. Is that correct?
Yeah, what the team showed on stage was it kind of pulls up your order ticket, so it like prepares the action, and then you can just submit it from there.
By the way, it's awesome because I have multiple times in my life fat fingered a trade that I needed to like immediately undo. So yeah, I love that.
And it's also a good way to navigate the app because it understands the entire ecosystem and can point you to the right place.
It almost seemed like a throwaway line from Vlad at the end where he said, eventually everything financial, including taxes and estate planning, can be done on the app with Cortex, I think was the kind of the context of the comment.
Yeah.
Is that sort of the ultimate vision, and you're building these building blocks now for eventually doing that? I mean, this is sort of my financial dream, is that I don't have to do my taxes anymore because that is a pain in the butt. Yeah. Is that sort of the idea that, maybe it's 5 years from now, maybe it's 10 years from now, but eventually if you have everything on Robinhood, it'll be that easy?
Yeah, I think that certainly the like long-term aspiration is to have the AI do more. And I think, we're building the layers to enable it to do that one by one. But I think when I think of how AI can enhance Robinhood, it's like three ways. First is like for the active trader. And active traders are really unique because they want their hands on the steering wheel. They want to make their own decisions. They want to trade. It's a hobby for them, and it's something they care deeply about. These customers tend to have very complex workflows. They'll set up like hours setting up a scan, or they'll spend like hours scripting out a technical, or like some of them who write code will script out a technical with some code. So for the active trader, we think we can take some of their most complex workflows and simplify them, which will save time for the people that are already doing it, and then two, make it way more accessible to the people who are like curious about it, because not everyone can program. So that's kind of what we showed at the Active Trader event, the Cortex controlled scanners, where you can say like, give me stocks that are trading with high volume and are in the technology sector, and maybe have breakouts, and it'll interpret that, set up a scan for you, and show you a bunch of stocks with the filters. And then we also showed the chart scripting, which is a lot of people write code. So for the active traders, there's this Copilot experience we think is really, really promising, and we think they're really going to love. Then the second pillar where I think AI can take our app is personalizing the experience. Some people are more active traders, some people are more passive investors. Can we personalize the app a little bit more to be attuned to your needs and how you engage with your money? Because we have a lot of products and we want to make sure that you see the things you need to see and care most about. The third is this like advisor kind of arc that you refer to, which I think is really promising. I think it'll take more time because we need to work closely with our regulators. We need to build the systems in a way that's really high confidence. But we think there's a lot of promise there, and it's something we are going to work towards.
I want to ask a little bit about tokenization. That did not come up this week, but it was something that was highlighted. I think it was the event in September or August, because that's one of those areas too where it does seem like parts of the market. I mean, BlackRock is talking about tokenization, which would have sounded insane 4 years ago. So clearly, the market is moving in that direction.
Yeah.
How is that? But we haven't seen a lot roll out from Robinhood yet. It seems like we're kind of in this incubation phase for the industry overall. But where is that at, and where is that sort of going in the future?
Yeah. I personally don't work on our crypto offering, so you'll need to talk a little bit more with Johan, who leads our crypto business, to get the details. But I think generally speaking, we have like two core hypotheses there. One is using tokenization to make US assets available worldwide. The MVP of that was like the stablecoin, right? Where they tokenized the dollar. And that's actually been probably the highest utility crypto product that has found product market fit. So in the EU, we rolled out tokenized stocks, which tokenizes US equities and makes them available in the EU. So that's actually rolled out and people are engaging with it. People are using it. It's actually a very nice way to access the US markets if you live in the EU. Then in the US, that's where we're still figuring things out. But there's kind of generally two theses. Can we tokenize real world assets, stuff that doesn't trade today? And then can we take existing markets and tokenize them to make them more available, dramatically lower the cost of operating these markets, and maybe even have like more hour availability. Maybe it'll take us to the weekends or something. So I think it's still in its like early phases, like you said. We're making a big investment. Johan can probably tell you more, but we're already rolled out in the EU and it's really exciting.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see how that changes. Final thing that I wanted to kind of get philosophical. One of the things that's been a big change with Robinhood over the past year, it's been a little bit over a year now, is the prediction markets. One of the things that I love about investing is it's a great way to build wealth. It's a positive sum business if you're able to keep investing and find good investments long term. Prediction markets are inherently negative sum. There's a winner, there's a loser, and then there's fees that come out of it. Is that a tension in the products, or is that just a matter of surfacing those products to the right people? Because it seems a little bit odd to me that my 401k is sitting next to what you rolled out last week, which is basically sports parlays.
Yeah, I think for us, prediction markets are really interesting, and we've obviously been spending a lot of time with them. I think what I personally find most fascinating about prediction markets is two things. One is investing in specific outcomes where I'll take an earnings call, for example, right? You may have a really strong informed point of view on how a company's earnings are going to perform, but then the stock will react to guidance, it'll react to earnings, it'll react to a collection of factors. So even if I do my complete due diligence, it's actually really hard to express that particular point of view through the equities markets or even through the options market. So I think when I have expertise in something, and I want to monetize that expertise or I want to invest through that expertise, it actually gives a very high signal way to express that opinion. I think the second really interesting thing is how you can get information through these markets. Like the Fed rate markets are really interesting. Those are heavily traded. but they give you a signal into where the Fed's going to go with interest rates, which has really broad impact on the markets.
And by the way,
You
is
have
much more
like
accurate than we've seen. We saw that with the
Yeah.
election. There's plenty of examples.
we saw that with the election. We saw that one that I think we listed recently was like the Warner Brothers kind of acquisition
Yeah.
and kind of where that was trending, and that actually
Yeah.
flipped the day of our keynote on Tuesday, which I thought was
Yeah.
pretty interesting. Weather's an interesting kind of phenomenon. I think we're going to see these markets continue to evolve. Obviously, sports is a very popular market, and it's something we've also invested in. But I think for us, the question is like, how do we make sure the customers that want it have access to it? And that's where I think some of the stuff we talked about around personalizing the experience really comes into play, and it's something that we care about. So we're going to be spending time on personalization as well.
It'll be interesting to watch that journey, because the stated preference of, and I totally get, I interned at a hedge fund and we traded volatility on commodities futures and like all kinds of weird stuff that you can do if you have access to those private markets. But the revealed preference is people are doing a lot of sports betting. So it will just be interesting to see how all you and everybody else handles that kind of tension.
Yeah, I think we're still very early in the journey of prediction markets. It's still very early, and we're kind of investing across the board, across all categories.
Anything that I missed or that you want to cover that everybody knows? This is an investing, and
Yeah.
we're looking at Robinhood and deep diving on what the company's going to be in 5-10 years. Anything that people should know?
What are you most excited about that's coming up?
I want to have my kid stuff all in one place. It's a pain to open accounts in the places that you can do a custodial account, things like that. That's primarily what they have. And as my son in particular gets more interested in investing, I want to be able to just toggle over on my Robinhood app. So
Yeah.
that's the dad in me.
I guess maybe to ask you a few questions on that, because this is certainly a space we've thought a lot about, and we've been spending time with the government engaging on the Trump Accounts initiative as well, which is very exciting to us. I guess maybe a question for you is like, as a dad, what's like the dream experience for you in a custodial account?
Just having things be easy to look at. I mean, he has an account now, and he asked me to go into it and look at how his stocks are doing and things like that. But him going in there and making first of all, he doesn't have the account that he has can't do fractional shares. So it's hard to. He wanted to buy Netflix, and Netflix was like $1,000 a share, and he had $200 to. And I was like, we can't do it. So he actually got some once they did their stock split. But that's putting in $100, $50, whatever. That is such a better experience from a 8-year-old, 5-year-old perspective than it is for the convoluted experience with traditional brokerages. Because to me, the biggest thing is just them having exposure to that, and then being able to, he's now asking questions, being able to talk, hey, what's going on with Google stock? I think that would be really interesting with Cortex, depending on what those responses look like, as he just becomes more curious about the markets.
And does he control the account, or do you control the account and you guys just have conversations about it out of curiosity?
Yeah, I mean, I'm clicking the buttons, but he's making the decisions now. He's old enough to do that. Cool. I mean, I'm guiding, but kids are smart. His line to me recently was, every time I do a Google search, I'm basically paying myself. And I'm like, you got it, man. That's how it works.
That's very cool. That's very cool.
What's been interesting with your app is it is a gateway for young people, right? Like, and that is the sort of the long-term thesis, is that you're attracting 20-year-olds and you're going to be with Robinhood for 50 years, 60 years.
Well, that's the goal. That's what we want to do. We have a lot to build. So,
yeah. Well, thank you so much for the time. I appreciate it. And anybody that has any questions for me on the video or any Asymmetric Investing, feel free to reach out. Thanks so much, Abhishek.
Appreciate it. It was great meeting you.
You too. Thanks.